Hey guys, it is day 5 and we are on the Law of Mercy. Welcome to the Onyonyabor Raising Project, where I teach you guys and show you my journey of raising myself and becoming a better person. And today we are going over day 5 of Operation Lawbringer, where we talk about the universal laws. And today's law is the law of mercy, right? This is one of the two foundational laws of the core universal law, right, which is to never go contrary to the law of love and the law of mercy. And this is the second half of that. So if you've been watching, this is the second of the three sort of pillars that hold all that up. Tomorrow's gratitude, but today we're talking about mercy, right? Now, sort of a preview on like the typical understanding of mercy is essentially mercy is when, say, something was done bad to you, like someone comes in and steals your stuff, right? You catch them and you can send them to jail or punish them, but you choose to have mercy on them because you're essentially letting it go. You're moving forward with the idea of their atonement, their repentance in mind. You're allowing someone to improve or work a better version of themselves into the future. All right. So part of what mercy is that it's essentially the enabling factor for grace. And we're going to talk a lot about what grace is, not like in the evangelical sense. I don't want to go anywhere near that. In the sense that it's very like, yeah, we're not talking about grace in the evangelical sense, but we're talking about grace in life, meaning because we live in a universal world where karma, the law of justice, is true. And we're going to talk more about that later. But because justice happens, if you do a bad turn, something bad happens to you. It's kind of like that. Not exactly like that, but for simple terms. The idea is that when you put out a certain level of energy, you must retreat that back. But especially when you're not in your creative angle and you don't know what the heck you're doing, you're going to be throwing out a lot of errant energy. And because of that errant energy going around, you're not going to get a lot of focused results. Yet, in spite of that, through the continual perpetuation of energy that came before us, we're able to get the benefits of the things that come and live with us in the modern day. Now, we see this in transmuted physically, right? So a good example of how this physically transmutes is, say, indoor plumbing. And most of the people in developed countries today have the blessing of indoor plumbing, but they didn't make the indoor plumbing. They didn't, build the aqueducts or build the sewers or do any of that work. That was laid by generations before, but we get the benefit of it, right? So this is an example of how things that are built into perpetuation can get so solid, right, that eventually you just have that structure, that framework to support as we move forward, right? And that's a physical example of how that would work. Now, how would that would work in a metaphysical or a creative sense? Say you're a writer or someone like that. Let's say you have a habit of always writing every day, whether it's your journal or whether it's a story you're working on. You always write every day. Even if you go into really tumultuous circumstances, because you've ingrained the habit so much, no matter where you're at, you're always going to fall back on that habit, right? That's a very understandable way to do that. And we see this pattern repeating that as things perpetuate, they just go forward. Um, that happens with bad things, though, right? That happens with things that are not beneficial to us, like generational trauma, childhood blocks, things of that nature. So the idea is then how are we able to overcome those type of things when that perpetual energy has been pushing towards us all the time? And a lot of it is because of mercy, right? And this law of mercy is essentially where you take energy that has been given, especially if it's negative or non-beneficial, you sort of you transmute it by saying, okay, you know what, I recognize that this wasn't a positive thing or a beneficiary thing, but now I'm going to move and act as if it is a good thing or as if this was a beneficial thing. And then through that transmutation, a greater creative sphere is introduced. And then through that, you have something new that is created, right? This is where you can have like generational trauma that's bad and bad. But then eventually, when you learn to have mercy on yourself, right, and give yourself grace and allow yourself for mistakes and forgive yourself, through that mercy you give yourself, you allow a healing to take place. And then eventually that generational trauma stops. And so, why this is important for creatives, especially when you're writing, is because when you're trying to get to this higher level of consciousness, it's very difficult when you're holding on to the baggage of the past, right? And oftentimes, the very factors that built the foundation are not going to be what builds on top of the foundation, right? So the same way you lay the cement for your house is not going to be the same way you make the walls and make the roof. And that's just like life, you know? The way you survive in the lower levels of the hierarchy are not going to be how you advance and move forward in the higher levels. And that's why you have to learn newer, higher rules. And law of mercy is one of these rules, right? So let's go specifically over what it is. And now, the law of mercy is that law which allows one to forgive error, to forgive equally those who err against you as you err against them. And this is to be merciful. It's akin to the law of love, and if one obeys the law of mercy, there can be no error in the world. And I really like that last line, right? There can be no error in the world. Because if you recognize that everything is supposed to have a trial, or that things are supposed to fall apart, that is actually baked into the plan, right? You start embracing the idea that essentially everything you're learning or you're experiencing is built to move you forward. And that instills a sense of faith. And then you stop seeing things as wrong with the world, or rather opportunities to improve and express creation, right? If Think of it this way, instead of looking at the world and something as having a problem to be solved, look at it as a new opportunity to be expressed or created, right? A good example would be, let's take those earlier indoor plumbing. Before, people were, burying their feces, whatever. They were using the bathroom outside, burying it, digging it up, and doing that before. But then someone said, "Hey, there's got to be a more economical way, right?" And then we invented indoor plumbing, and that happened as a result. And now you could have said that was a problem, right? But on the higher level of consciousness, it was just simply a higher level of creation, another opportunity to express, using the bathroom in a more efficient and cleaner way. And then because people were able to do that, they spent less time using the bathroom. And you see how all these things compound, right? When people have to spend less time making their clothes, less time hunting for food, less time building and maintaining their shelter, they have more idle time for intellectual and recreational pursuits. And in these recreational pursuits, we create and have a higher level of manifestation, higher consciousness. And so this is only done through mercy, though, right? It's recognizing that when things go wrong and they don't work out, if you move on as though things are well, you take that energy, and because justice has to come in, certain results are, you're entitled to those. That's essentially what I'm trying to say, is that you're entitled to a certain level of results through karma if you show mercy. And we there's that doesn't necessarily mean, though, we have to tolerate people violating our boundaries and things not being taken care of. This is why having a very honest conversation with consciousness, because sometimes the best thing to do, sometimes the most merciful thing, is to be exacting in punishment or to show people what they need to do. It's a long process, I think, to gain the balance of knowing when to apply the law of mercy as a creative process versus recognizing, putting yourself at needless risk. And I generally, though, if I feel like, if you're in debate, I generally err on the side of mercy, because I would rather die having shown loves to somebody rather than lived being too ruthless to the wrong person. But that's just my personal conviction. And so, yeah, that is the law of mercy. And essentially, what it means is that there's an opportunity, by allowing things that go wrong to turn around and use them as creative potential, you can create more, right? And that's why it is so akin to love, because it is taking a responsibility, taking a higher level of stewardship beyond yourself and taking it upon yourself. And then through that, karma, in order to balance it out, must grow you to take on and expand to that level of responsibility. And you see this in your habits, you see this in everything you do. Now, this might be a little abstract. If it is, please comment down below. Let me know if you guys got that, or if this makes any sense. I just want to say like and subscribe the video. Appreciate it. I'm trying to grow the channel. I've tried to get like 10 more subscribers, or I don't know. I don't know how many subscribers I have. I need to check. But I'm always trying to like try and get like 10 an episode, or like 10 and then 100, or whatever. Just trying to grow my channel because it's tiny right now, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I definitely would like more people to see what I'm spouting and see if it's any good. Because yeah, I have a message I'm trying to share and trying to figure it out along the way. So any help you guys could do to that, really appreciate it. So like, subscribe, comment if you have any questions or concerns. And this is Onion or Peter Clampton saying, have a nice day, stay happy, stay healthy, and peace.